Hi there, it's Chef P, and we're making soft ginger snaps today. Great little recipe, and even for those, for people who've had those hard ginger snaps of the past in those packages, these are a much different cookie, and they're reminiscent of a sort of a gingerbread man kind of recipe, but not as crunchy and not as nasty. These are really, really delightful and soft and chewy. So I really, really like those. So let's take a look at our mise en place today. What we've got here for the seasonings, of course, we've got ginger, ground cinnamon. We're also using ground clove as well as molasses. And so that's going to be the meat of our flavor that we're getting from that ginger snap. And it really has a wonderful kind of Thanksgiving kind of feel to it, which we really enjoy. Now, this recipe also has brown sugar, also has white sugar, but I'll caution you right now, this white sugar is not for the actual dough recipe. This white sugar, once you measure it, put it off aside, because what we're going to do is we're going to be making a cookie batter, and then we're going to make little balls and then roll them in the sugar and then bake them. Okay, so that white sugar does not go into your mixture, so just keep that in mind. Today, instead of a margarine fat, we're actually using shortening. Okay, so this is vegetable shortening. In a pinch, if you still have lard, or you could still buy lard, then you could use that as well. But we're using vegetable shortening here today. My seasonings, I've already pre-measured. You won't be able to see them here. I'll try to move them so they don't mix too much. But this is my clove, my ginger, and my cinnamon, and my baking soda. So I've put those all in there pre-measured here. And you'll also notice in the recipe that it says that flour, it'll say a little bit of like 2 cups of flour, and then it says divided. It does not mean, so when you see that in a recipe, it doesn't mean that recipe that you divide that amount. It just tells you that there will be more coming later on. And if you recall, when we discussed a good recipe is listed in the way that you use it. So this recipe is exactly that. You'll notice in this recipe that you require some flour, and then later on you require more flour. Sorry, did I say 2 cups? It wasn't 2 cups. It's a half cup of each, and one has 2 tablespoons of flour extra, which I have separated here already. Okay, so in this recipe, you'll use a little bit of the flour first, and then you'll use the rest later once that's all incorporated. So that's what you want to keep in mind. We also have an egg for binding, and I think that's basically it. Now, the cool thing about this one here, the last 2 recipes that we did, so we did chocolate chip cookies, and we also did oatmeal raisin cookies, and we started by creaming our fat and sugars. We're not doing this with this recipe. This recipe here is pretty much foolproof, because everything just goes in except for this second part of flour. Okay, so that first part of flour goes in first, but this second part doesn't go in until after. So I'm actually going to put that aside just so I don't mess up. And the other thing, just a reminder, that white sugar doesn't go in there either. So in our bowl right now, what we're going to do is we're going to take this. This is our shortening, which has been pre-measured for me already. And I'm going to pop that into my bowl like that. And I'm also going to show you how to sift, which I didn't do in the chocolate chip recipe, and I didn't do in the oatmeal cookie recipe as well. But it's an important skill, and so I'm going to show you how to do that today. Okay? I'll move these seasonings out of the way because I've already got those measured, so I don't need them now. I will keep this molasses because I still need it. And so far I've got my shortening. I'm going to take my packed brown sugar. So my brown sugar's in here, my white sugar is not. Well, I had to pause there, and this is actually hilarious, and I'm glad it actually happened because it's a good thing to discuss. So as I was discussing adding my my brown sugar to my shortening, my egg that I had rolled off, and so there was a little pop there. I kind of wished I had a second camera that could have caught that, because that would have been funny to watch in slow motion. I've watched that happen in this class so many times where an egg is sitting here on a counter and then slowly does exactly what this one is doing now and slowly rolls off. And that's exactly what just happened. What I should have done was secure that on something, and I didn't do that. So anyways, quite funny, but let's go back to, to our video here. So I've got my shortening, I've got my brown sugar. I'm going to add my flour, but I'm going to sift that. So I'm just gonna take this wire strainer, I'm gonna put that over top, and I'm gonna take that first part. So remember that I have 2 half cups of flour. One has 2 tablespoons more in it, which is my last one, and I'll use that after. So I'm doing the first part, I'm leaving that second one there. Then I'm taking my seasonings and my baking soda, okay, that are here, and I'm gonna put those in to be sifted as well. I'm gonna take that, put that out of the way, put this here. This little egg, I'm gonna take him, so when I stopped, I actually paused and then cleaned up the bloody mess, and, and here we are. So before I do that, I'm just going to tap this through, which sifts. It does 2 things. One, it aerates my flour, and it also catches any little things that shouldn't be in there, okay, little lumps and things of that nature. All right, so that's what I've got going on in there now. It already smells delightful. I'm gonna take my egg. I always crack it on the table. I don't crack it on the bowl. Crack, I'm gonna take that through like that. Good, success. This one didn't end up on the floor. And finally, we need to add our molasses. And molasses is a very thick, some of you may know what it is, some of your families may use it already, some of you may not know what it is. But it is very, very thick. And so I need a tablespoon of that. There we go. And this has a really, really distinct flavor. You may taste it and go, ooh, that's disgusting, I don't like that. Or you may really, really like that flavor. And again, there's a saying that says, you know, running as slow as molasses in January, and that's basically what it does. It's just very, very thick. So I'm going to let that do its thing. But yeah, it has a very distinct flavor. I grew up with molasses on all kinds of things and in all kinds of things, so I like it. But some people really, really don't like that flavor. But in this cookie, it doesn't stand out. It's not like, oh, this is a molasses cookie or anything. All right, so I'm going to scrape some of that out. I want to get all that in there. And now what I want to do is start to mix that all together. Okay, so I need to break up that shortening. And see the difference between this cookie and the other ones. I don't have to cream it first and go into layers. This all just comes together. Now, often what happens in this class too is people divide that first half cup into 2. And then at the end, they're going, this is not thick enough. I don't get it. Make sure that you read it correctly. That flour shows up twice in your recipe, okay? And make sure that you get that all in there. All right. So this is a bit of a process because I want to make sure that all that shortening gets mixed in, and I don't want it to have lumps and that sort of thing. There we go. And you may notice in time when you watch my videos, if there's a screw up in the video, it stays there. That's all. So my egg situation, yep, that's gonna stay there. That's not gonna be edited out in any way. And I'm just, because things happen in the kitchens and everything is a learning experience. And really it does happen a lot here, and it really is inattention. And you know, I hope that you guys don't do that when we all get together. So what you'll see is it's a really kind of gummy, hang on, just want to break up some of these things here. So that's where we're at now. So some people might look at it and go, oh, okay, we're ready to go here, and forget about that other cup of flour, that half cup of flour and 2 tablespoons, okay? And remember, my white sugar's still here. I haven't put that in there. I'm not going to put that in there. Don't make that mistake. Okay, don't put that sugar in there. All right, once this is all blended, and I notice that all my brown sugar's mixed, and I've got a uniform color. That's what I want. I'm going to add this next piece of flour. I'm going to sift that. Once again, and again, oh yeah, look at that. You just use that. that sounds annoying. I'm just going to, there we go, that's a little better. And what you'll notice, so there was a little thing left in here, so that's great. It did its job, and it has aerated my flour. This is essentially important for cake making. Okay, so it's very important that you aerate and you sift, especially with cakes. It's a good practice for cookies, but it is essential for cakes. All right, so this is all coming together, and then all of a sudden you might go, oh my God, it looks too thick. I think I messed up. I think there's too much flour in there. You're okay. You're okay. You're just going to keep blending that. And it's going to get nice and thick. And it's going to be completely different than the two others that you made this week. So this one is not a drop cookie. This is what we call a rolled cookie. And you'll see why we call it that. I like to get my hands in there. My hands are nice and washed. They're all clean. I'm going to get that in there. I might use this to scrape off the balance here, because our hands will be in here to finish it up. Now, of course, before you start anything, you want to make sure that your hands are always clean. Anyway, it doesn't matter when you're cooking. You're always doing that. Always washing those hands first, okay? Make sure that that happens. Okay, so once this is here, it may look a little crumbly. And you're going to go, oh no, this is no good. Okay, look at that. So it looks really kind of crumbly, and that's okay. What we're going to do now is we're going to roll these cookies. Now, if you want to feel better about it, you can actually just mix it up with your hands too. Okay, you could completely do that, so that's how that looks. See that? Good. I like to get all that flour off the sides too. Less cleaning, plus all the ingredients are now in my batter. Okay, so this recipe actually calls for an ungreased sheet, and you can completely do that, not a problem. Because of the way that this comes together, the sugar actually acts as a barrier. I still like to use the parchment paper, so I'm going to do that today, and hopefully you can see that. And now this sugar, this little bowl of white sugar comes over, and that's where we're going to use it. I'm going to make little balls that are about the size of a Timbit. Like that, okay? And I'm just going to roll it in the sugar, like that, and plop it down. That will squish, it will go over. If you want, if you feel better, you can always put your thumb on it. And then sometimes there are cookies that are called thumbprint cookies. This typically doesn't fall under that category, but you can still make that happen. All right, I roll that in the sugar. And I'm just going to do that, and I think I'm going to do about 12 for this one. And the cool thing about this cookie is once it's cooked, it gets this really cool cracking sort of look on the top of it. And that's how you know you've really done a good job, because you get sort of so the sugars on the outside just sort of create this little crust, and then those crack open a little bit, and they look really, really smart. They look like those dry ones that you buy in those packages, but they don't have that same hard crunch that you see on those. So I will just continue to do that. All right, and I'll pause while we finish that up. And kablamo, just like that, they're ready to go. Okay, so we're preheating today. Actually, well, just before we do that, I was able to get all my 15 cookies on there. I think the recipe says 18, but it all depends on the size of the cookie that you're making. You want to space them out a little bit. They will expand a little bit, not as much as a oatmeal cookie, but they will expand. So today we've preheated the oven to 375. I'm actually using convection bake. Okay, so again, I'm using that fan at the back. You do not have to, but you can. Okay, so I'm just going to pop these in the oven. And they're going to take about, I believe it's 10 minutes. Okay, so 8 to 10 minutes. I like to put the 8, check it out, see how they're doing. And again, what we're looking for is browning on the sides and then that cracking happening on the top. And because we have soda in there, once again, when they come out, they will sink a little bit. Okay, so that's what we're looking for. I'm going to pop these in the oven and I'll show you the end result. Okay, so our ginger snaps are in the oven and they're just about done. So I'm just waiting for that alarm. But before I get started, of course, I'm going to need my oven mitts. And I'm always remembering that I have to open the door all the way, pull out the rack, then grab my tray with my mitts on. And I'm going to use the thumbs of those mitts to keep my hands on that parchment paper so it doesn't slide off. Okay, so let me take a look at it. Let's see. Oh, they're looking good. They have another 45 seconds to a minute, so I'll just come back. So here's our end result. And I don't know if you can see all the little cracks. That's exactly what we want to see. Okay, so I let these cool for a little bit, and then I scoop them off and put them onto my cooling rack. Okay, so I'll just show you that. Normally I let them sit there a little bit longer, but I'll just do that. And just let those cool nicely, and you'll see they'll sink a little bit, but that's that cracking. I don't know if you can see it here. I'll try to. Yeah, that's not a very good shot here. Let me try that. I don't know if I can hold it and show you guys. You see the cracking that shows up there? It's beautiful because it has this sort of sandy texture from the sugar, and those little cracks just make them so wonderful. So I'm gonna take all these off. There, I sort of propped that up so you guys could see it. And we will put that there. My asbestos hands are getting better in time here. can handle pretty good heat from there. Okay, so I guess we probably should taste one and see what they're like. Still a little bit hot, but that's okay. Look at that. Okay, so it's almost like it's a combination between the yumminess of gingerbread, but the texture of almost a molasses cookie, but without the flavor of a nasty molasses cookie. Not that they're nasty, but they have a very strong, pungent flavor. So, that's a good ginger snap. Anyways, make these. These are awesome.